Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm your host, Diane Gibbs, and I am here with Tulgetske, and I said it right. Yay, I've
Yep.
been practicing for a week, over and over and over. So, thank you guys for coming. I'm really excited. Sean, you have a huge following, so I'm excited to have a bunch of questions. You got some questions from the audience because I send out the questions the night before. So in addition to those questions, we've got a few from the audience as well. But first, I want you to just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, a little bit about your background and maybe what you were doing before you started lettering. Let's start there.
All right, I'm Sean, and I've always just been like a hands-on kind of person, like anything to like get my hands dirty, just build stuff like that. So, and I've always just appreciated good design and type. So, kind of like handcrafting type has just been like a niche that I've found over like the last few years at least. But yeah, anything to do with my
So,
hands.
so what were you doing before you started drawing type
Drawing type.
or lettering?
Let's see. I like career, like job wise, or just anything.
You start with career-wise. What were you doing before?
I started out changing tires for a year, and that was not really fun. And then I got my first like design job, and I was working at a handmade candy store where we made hard candy, and I did like custom label design for like businesses and weddings and stuff. So that was my
That's
first like,
cool.
intro. And then
So, how did you make that jump from changing tires
it's just
to
kind of
like this really?
like a friend like said that he had like a design, like he was a manager there and they were looking for a new designer. And I was just like, I was a semester deep into like graphic design at community college, and I just wanted to jump into that and change like that direction and go do something that I enjoyed more.
Cool. All right. So then you worked at the candy store and then you were drawing some type, I guess, if you were doing some labels and some logos and things like that,
Yeah,
right?
it was more of like just like typesetting, like fonts and just like Illustrator work, like real basic, nothing too fancy. But at the same time, I was going to school and I was taking some typography classes and design ones and drawing on the side. And that's when I like got into Instagram and really started like pushing myself to like get better and better.
So how long ago did you start really working on it and posting on Instagram?
Um, I'd say it's over a year and a half. It's getting closer to 2 years now. I'm pretty sure. That's when it all started. Like I had to do a class project and had to design a drop cap, and so like we could do it on the computer or draw it, and I decided to draw one and like, drew a letter F, put it on Instagram, and people just like loved it, and so like it inspired me to like keep making that stuff.
That's cool. So all right, so one of our questions from the audience, Todd wanted to know about what do you see as the implications of hand lettering versus typesetting in a world that so emphasizes, typesetting and speed and all that stuff, where there's tons and tons of fonts. Why do you believe hand lettering is so important?
It's completely unique. Like you can, there's thousands of fonts, but then again, somebody else could use the same font, and I mean, there goes like your brand, and it becomes associated with something else. Like it's just more of like a passion thing too. Like you can really put your like heart and soul into like a project when you're crafting it all just by yourself in a way. There's a lot more like flexibility I see too, like informing and everything. Just
And
it's
maybe a little bit more personal.
yeah, more personal, more unique.
Cool. All right, I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, but there's nothing
So
wrong with using type and all that other stuff too. It's all kind of like on your client in a sense as well.
So you were doing this stuff kind of on the side. You were doing work. You were a design student, and then you were doing. You decided to do this one project by hand, and then you just found kind of like you just stumbled into this love, I guess. Maybe, but you
Yeah,
always had a desire for type, or did you like
Yeah,
type?
for sure. Like I really admired type and just, I mean, it was years back, so it was like really bad like Photoshop type that I really liked, but I never could figure out how to like do it myself. And like Photoshop just putting ugly drop shadows and gradients over things, and then like drawing out by hand and stuff. I figured like, oh, I can actually make the word shaped like this and look fine without just distorting it like crazy. And there's just a lot more freedom and like creativity involved.
And it used your mind, I think, more than maybe just what the computer can give you.
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
really designing.
Yeah. I really felt more like connected to like the stuff I was doing.
Cool. All right. So you were on Instagram. You've been on Instagram for about 2 years. So how did Sevenly, because you're working at Sevenly, how did Sevenly find you? And then how did you market yourself, or do you market yourself?
hmm
And I have other questions that are related to that. I'll just wait.
Yeah. So Instagram, like once I started like getting like that fan base for lettering and stuff, like I just kept pursuing it and trying to like better my last post in a way. But I was always like
Mm-hmm.
pushing out like positive messages and whatnot, just like inspire people in a way and just showing them like design doesn't just have to be flat logos or whatever. You can like turn this like inspiring phrase and like really complement it with good design and type and just creates like the whole package there. And so I just kept building that positivity and it started growing and taking off. And then suddenly Dale Partridge actually found my Instagram along with, I think, Drew Melton saw it too and kind of like recommended me. And they found me through Instagram. And I got an email at like 2 in the morning one night asking if I wanted to fly out for an interview. And then like 4 days later, I'm in California for an interview. Like, it's just so surreal.
So why Sevenly? Why is Sevenly such a good fit for you? And you may want to tell people if they don't know what Sevenly is, you might want to give them a little bit of background about their mission and stuff like that.
Well, Suddenly is a lifestyle brand, and we like design apparel, and so we partner with a new charity every week, and $7 from each item sold goes towards that charity. So it's really awesome in that sense. So every week it's a new charity we're helping out and supporting and coming up with new designs every week. But I've looked up to Sevenly for since they almost first started. Like there's this weird connection through friends of friends that have like known people that have worked there and whatnot since they started. So I've really looked up to their type and just to think like when I got that email that I could be joining the team just like blew me away. And then also like I found out Nathan was gonna be there and it's just like this is not happening. This can't be real. So it all just kind
So
of
so
fell
it
into
was,
place.
and that positive message also was something that it just kind of resonated. It wasn't just that their style fit you, it was also just that message and that
Yeah.
they were helping other people.
Yeah, because I remember like a design I made a long time ago. It was like I wrote like someday somehow I want to change this world, and I just always wanted to be like a bigger part in that. And then suddenly it was just like a bigger platform to like help me inspire others, and is that's like what their foundation is built on is people matter. So it's just
Yeah,
like another voice to like get that message out there.
that's cool. All right. So, well, all right, let's see. I'm trying to make sure I've got all my images. So you're also you're working small. You're not like a huge. I mean, some of the drawings that you have, I'm gonna pull up one of those so that we can talk about it a little bit. But you're also an illustrator. You're a really great illustrator.
Yeah, then
And
suddenly it's
these
kind of opened me up to that too. Because before, like, I just get super discouraged with myself, like drawing in my room at home, like, because I couldn't get what I wanted. But just being around like Nathan and Zach and our creative director Danny, like, they just keep pushing me to like try new things, and it's just super inspiring.
Well, and I think when you're around other people that are have excellent craftsmanship and they're trying new things, it makes you want to try new things. And
Totally.
I'm sure that's impacted. I think it's impacted all of y'all. So, well, let me plop this up. So if you're new, you can't get rid of this, but I can move it, or you can move it. You can drag your mouse off of it and then back on it, and then you can move it to wherever. So you can work so that it's not on top of Sean's face. But these are tiny.
Oh yeah, I don't know like why I did this or how I came across it, but I just love working like as small as I can. It's just challenging and fun, and getting like to where you can actually make out what the object is, but also being in its simplest form. It's just like that's one way I like to illustrate things.
Yeah. Well, and if you didn't have that pen there, we
Hmm.
would have no idea how small these were, you
Yeah,
know?
the cool
So,
thing about this is that I like designed it to be like a repeating pattern. So like you can kind of see it's like a puzzle piece and it just fits in on all sides.
hmm
That's kind of cool.
let me
Like,
see if I think we have it bigger as a, maybe it's repeating. I can't remember. Let's see.
yeah, repeat it a few times, I think.
So
Yeah.
that's it repeating, right?
Yeah, it's after I scanned it into Photoshop and kind of textured it up a little bit.
That's awesome. But to me, one of the things that's so impressive is the little bitty white marks because it's really small. So you're coloring around. Did you
Yeah,
fix any of that? Because the other drawing was the original though, so
right.
it
Yeah,
looks
I don't
really
think I
good.
touched anything up on the one on the computer. I was pretty happy with the way it turned out.
Oh, so you've gotten tons of comments on your mustache, which I already asked you about before we started. So Emilio's loving it, and also Tyler said it was rocking. It was epic. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right. So your style, you really have a big range,
Hmm.
which I think is awesome, and it allows you for flexibility. So what did you start doing, and then where do you think it's allowed you to go to now, and how much further? I mean, do you
First
plan
started,
on going?
yeah, like when I first started like hand lettering, I was just like trying to keep it classic with like the font Baskerville. I just loved how like thick and thins and all that, and like I really studied that like typeface a lot, and I just kind of like just dig out of my mind like things I remember about that, and just kind of inspire that towards like the type I was drawing. But lately, I've just been like really falling in love with different like styled scripts and whatnot, and cursive handwriting. Pretty much anything from the 50s is what I've been into lately. Illustration and type. There's just so much gold in that era. So that's kind of where I'm
Yeah.
heading. It's just
Well,
real classy, just original type.
so this piece is, and I think there's a in another one, but this piece, that I Have a Dream, I believe this was posted. I don't know if it was yours or Sevenly's for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the
Yes.
17th of January here,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And this is a beautiful piece. So this was hand done, and then you fixed it up in the computer. What was the process?
My process, this is the first time I've done a flourished out piece like this. So my process was more of a learning curve, no pun intended. But yeah, I sketched it out probably 11 times. First, I kind of like fit the lettering where I wanted it, and then like just trying to figure out how to do all the flourishes and the curves. And I was drawn with a red pencil and just kind of real loose, just trying to figure out that. And then I'd kind of go over it with like a black Sharpie whenever I found the right curve. And then I'd trace over that and then like see where I could fit the next curve and just kind of built it up and trying to keep balance with everything. But then I scanned it in and then took it into Illustrator. And I think I sent you a file of that and just kind of wireframed it out and cleaned up all the curves.
Which is amazing looking too, just to see that kind of back end. I love seeing this.
That was
But I
crazy.
mean, so you went in and redrew it in. Illustrator?
Yeah, I
Or
had like it was over top of the scanned in image, but yeah, I redrew it with the pen tool just as a single weight. And then I used that to reference the final. So like I had all my curves perfect and where I wanted them and whatnot. And then I re-inked
so
the
you kind of,
final.
but then you underlaid it under you then you had a piece of paper and you did the final by hand,
Right,
right?
yeah. Because I wanted like the hand-drawn look towards it.
Yeah. So Todd asked, do you trace to revise your own work?
I actually just started using, I just traced something the other day I was working on, but a lot of the times I'll just redraw it. Tracing, I do a lot of tracing when I'm doing like script work, just getting like the angles and all that, just to keep it, like, I don't know, just like that. But I've been getting
So
more into tracing.
well, it helps it revise. Like whenever I'm doing logos or something, I'm just because I might have messed up something, or even an illustration, I might have wanted to something to go a different way. But if you're doing something like this, you've already kind of done. You did the initial drawing, then you did the wireframe, the individual stroke line, and then you're going to go back. So, what kind of pen are you? This piece is bigger, though. You were working.
Yeah,
It looked like you were working bigger.
yeah. The final piece was in a, I think it was 9 by 13 like sketchbook, I think, or an 8 by 11. I don't know. But it was about a sheet of paper. So, but the final
So,
print is actually there on the wall. I have
oh
it
yeah,
in here. But yeah.
that's that's awesome. All right, so then you're going back. What tool did you use to draw back over this so that you got some of those thick and thins? Or did you just draw the thick and thins in and then color
Yeah.
it in?
Yeah, that's how I did it with that. I just did it with micron pens. I used like
Yeah, that's
one of the thicker ones just to keep a consistent line weight on the thins, and then just kind of added to make the thick strokes.
it's amazing like that you did all that and you don't ever get any on your hand. I mean, I've even used like a highlighter this morning and it's all over my hand.
Yeah.
How are you staying clean? Are you like putting another piece of paper down as you go?
Sometimes, yeah. Other ways, just working from like top left and just kind of working your way down if you're right-handed. I guess if you're left-handed, do like the mirrored version of that.
Right.
Hmm.
That's awesome. All right, so let me get back to my questions. Um, all right, so what did you start in the beginning? You were starting with the positive messages. Was there something? Because for me, as somebody who's just learning and beginning, I kind of sometimes have a hard time knowing what to write, and sometimes I need, does the content even matter? Like, are you pulling a quote or something? And does it matter? Does it help you if you have something that you really believe in, or does it not matter?
Um, yeah, I'd say for the most part it matters. Like I would have like a little journal with just a bunch of things that were on like my mind or my heart or whatever that I just would like jot down, and then whenever I like was inspired to do something, I'd just kind of like let it go and just write one of those things out. But um, so like it's hard to just like if you want to like draw something, just come up with something on the spot and just try to throw it down. Like that's never really worked out for me. I just end up frustrating myself and just walking away for the most part.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this morning, I think you posted something. Um, Thank you, Christina. Um, I'm a really slow reader, so it takes me a second. Um, sorry. This morning you posted something, I believe, and you were talking about your right? You were doing
Oh
practicing.
yeah,
You were just
yesterday, yeah.
practicing,
Yeah, just
and I was
practicing
like,
letter form and like how to do certain strokes and to keep it consistent, because that's one thing like I've learned is I just want to jump into whatever I'm like wanting to do, but half the time I'll just go for it and I'll just never be satisfied. So I'm trying something new and just kind of going way back to square one and just like putting in the hours just practicing. before I just try to master
So
something.
can you do stuff like that? Can you do stuff like that at work? Can you practice
Yesterday,
like that at work?
yeah, they actually give us time off to just like cool down, re-inspire, and just work on our craft, which is amazing to be able to do that. So yeah, yesterday I just sat head down and just did like 11 pages of just practice in one letters and lines and all that
So I
stuff.
have it. I think I can put it on screen.
Yeah,
So to me, this is one of the things that I love that shows your humility and that you're, I mean, and all these great calligraphers that I've seen, they practice constantly, like
yeah,
shapes like this. And what you wrote I thought was really nice too. And that's another reason I really like Instagram, because you can kind of really see some of there's you're not limited to a number of characters, so you can
right.
get a little bit more deeper. Do you think that that's been one of the best parts about Instagram?
Yes, totally. Like actually being able to put like your passion in like a photo and then writing out and just like completely explaining why you're posting this and having other people to be able to like connect and collaborate with that is really what like drew me into Instagram.
Well, and not even just the collaboration, it's just the help. Like I've
Yeah,
put something and somebody was like today was like, you should use marker paper. It might be better. And I'm like, yeah, I have this crappy sketchbook, and of course I just started it, so I can't just throw it out because I'm too cheap to just throw it out. But
yeah.
it's like one of those things. So did you make this paper or did you buy the paper with the lines
I actually found it
already?
and just printed it out on just like laser paper, laser jet or jet paper. Just that, and I was using a Bic ballpoint pen, nothing fancy. Yeah,
Like these are my favorites.
yeah,
But they're super cheap. But so a black Bic, because you're just practicing your
right.
loops. That's
So nothing
awesome.
fancy.
So how many hours did you spend yesterday practicing?
Maybe like 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know. I just kind of got lost in it. It was mesmerizing
That's
after
good.
like you get halfway through the paper of drawing like just M's. It's just like just keeps going and going. But it's kind of cool to see like where you start on a page and where you end up, and seeing how like just writing one page of the same thing, you refine each stroke.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I also think is really neat about this in particular is that you are just using something that doesn't, I mean, you could probably do the same number, the same 3 hours with something that has more give. Like, I have some, they're too far away, I can't reach them, but I have these pins from JetPin,
Oh,
jetpins.com or whatever. And so it's a Japanese pin. I have no idea what it is, but it's really nice. So when you push down on your downstrokes, it gets thicker, and then you can go
yeah,
lighter, and it has a good variation. But to me, this is like, hey, if Sean is practicing like this,
yeah,
boy, I need to seriously sit down and
yeah.
practice.
Because a lot of people like just are always asking like what paper, what pen, like there's some secret. But I mean, it's work with what you have and just do the best you can with it. When I first started lettering, I was using thick mechanical pencils in like a moleskin sketchbook or whatever, and I was trying to scan in pencil sketches and vectorize them. It was a nightmare, but you just start wherever and keep refining your process.
That's good. Well, you have a little bit of knowledge about the computer and about Photoshop, maybe
Yeah.
because you had done some stuff. Had you done? There's stuff floating around. I have a sevenly chicken. You see, you can't really see him. I have posters everywhere else, but I love that chicken. I have chickens, so anyway, I love sevenly. Just so y'all know.
Awesome.
All right, back to. I don't think you made the chicken, but it's a
I
really
think
funny
Megan did
looking
that
chicken.
one.
I love it. All right. Anyway, so you're practicing. Do you think that's the key to your being able to get as much done as you have, is just that love for practicing and wanting to refine?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I first started doing it, I was drawing in my bedroom at my parents' house before I moved out here. and I would just like dedicate an hour before I'd go to like work and just sit there and just draw stuff. Just not taking things too seriously. Like not everything you do is going to be a final perfect piece. Like half the stuff you make, you're going to want to just crumple up and throw away after you're done. Like I've spent days on stuff and not even like it by the time I'm done. But everything's a learning like process.
So, who do you go to for inspiration? Christina wants to know who are some of the people or YouTube or other videos or Instagram people that you followed or that inspire you to be better.
I can't really say anyone in like particularly. I try to like really just have a huge collection just to where it's not like, oh, this looks like this person's work. Like
Right.
digging from all over the place. But big
That's
names would be like Joshua Noon, Nathan Yoder, Zach Smith, Neil Secretario, Neil Tasker, just all these just lettering guys that are out there. But a lot of the stuff I find inspiration from is from like old packaging design, old signs, and just the most random things you could think of.
So are you going out and searching for this, like old advertisements or packaging or anything like that at like yard sales or antique stores, or is that something you're also finding online?
A lot of it's online, but I do enjoy going to like antique stores and just finding old type and like searching that out, old books and maps and illustrations, all that fun stuff. But yeah, like the link to my Pinterest is like a collection of all the stuff I've found. So
Cool. Let me share that real quick.
Yeah, totally. That's where a lot of my inspiration comes from.
All right. So Emilio, I have a question from Emilio. So it's like all down somewhere else where I can't see it until I look. So I'm hunting for your Pinterest, and I'm going to get you to answer this one. So, hey, Sean, how much of what you know did you actually learn at design school?
Design school was actually just graphic design courses at a community college. I didn't do anything fancy. I learned quite a bit through a typography class, which I really recommend to anybody who really wants to get into lettering. Is just take a beginner course, just so you can learn the foundations of why things are certain ways. You really learn what makes for good legible type that way. But a lot of it is just trial and error or just finding random things online to kind of like inspire or teach you new little tips and tricks.
So I know Jason wanted to know how you seem really to explode on Instagram in that particular platform. Do you have some kind of understanding why your work resonates so well with Instagram as that particular audience? Are you having that same kind of effect on Pinterest? Because it's a little harder for us to see on just look at somebody's Pinterest. You can see a board or you could see something, but it's a little easier for us to see. I mean, you have thousands of followers on Instagram, and then on Instagram you can see each post. You can see how many people are also commenting. So why do you think Instagram's been such a great platform for you?
I think it's just the whole transparency thing, like being open about who you are and like why you're doing things and being helpful to people who ask questions and just being like a part of a community and not just somebody who's just showing off their work on Instagram, like, oh, look what I made. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. And just looking for praise in a way. Because I feel like a lot of designers do that, just like to feed their ego. But just being able to like help other people out in little ways, just giving little tips and tricks here and there, just clearing things up and just showing like you don't have to just make final perfected pieces. Like you can sketch, you can make ugly things and just have fun with it and not take it too seriously.
Well, and I also think so. It's so nice. It is about that transparency. It's about helping. If somebody has a question that, just like you said, it could be just a simple Bic pen, but it's not about that. It's about the other stuff that goes in. And just like you're eating from all different sources visually. I say it's like eating.
Yeah.
And you're getting all this influence from all these people. You're not trying to copy somebody, but you're also not afraid if somebody's copying you, because you're going to help them, because you know that they'll find their own voice at some point. Because I
Right.
think all the great masters, Da Vinci and all those people had to copy, people copied them to get to be where they were, but then they found their own voice. And I think that it's kind of something, it seems like you're embracing that part.
Yeah, totally. Because I was there at one point. Like, I was really looking up because two big inspirations when I first started lettering were Nathan and then Sean West is lettering too. Like, and I know when I first started, like a lot of my stuff was looking like Sean West's or kind of like Nathan's, but over time, like you kind of refine who you are and like your styles and what you want your stuff to look like. But a big thing to people getting into it is not looking up to just one person, but really collectively gathering inspiration, not like looking at one person's work and then looking down and drawing yours and looking back up, because
Right.
it's all about like kind of crafting something original in a sense.
So it's the same way with type, because I've found for me, I'll start and I'll be like, okay, well, I see this typeface that I kind of like you were with Baskerville maybe in the beginning. There are certain parts that I like, and I mean, and I tell this to my students, I'm like, it's like dating. You're dating this letter, and the more you spend time with this letter, the you realize there's this extra little curve on the, the bottom serif, and you didn't realize it was there before. It's all these things that you've read this letter many, many times, maybe even in that typeface, but you didn't realize the little nuances. Do you think that that's been something? Did you start just? I know you said you started with Baskerville, but did you also repeat other type that was out there and then
Um,
meld it together?
yeah, kind of like I was just doing with grid paper, just drawing like I don't know how what would be called like college type, where it's just like super squared off, and then like
Mhm.
adding angles to things, but then like then adding curves like towards like Baskerville, like kind of mimicking that, kind of learning like where thick and thin lines go, what curves, like how the serifs look, and then scripts have definitely been like the most labor intensive thing to learn. There's just so much that differs between styles. But once I got into like playing with a dip pen, like learning like pressure and how that affects like all like what the letter looks like, and like, just collectively gathering all that just to form letters now.
So, but that's really like you found this, I don't know, makes you all giddy, I guess, it's because it seems
Yeah.
like, I mean, you're really in love with this kind of that flow of those letters. It's,
Mm-hmm.
certain things resonate more, like certain styles.
Right.
So that seems like it's been a style recently that you've kind of fallen in love with. Is there something in particular about it? Is it the challenge?
Totally. Like making like with scripts especially like making something flow like super elegantly or just like really fun depending on like the message you want like perceived from it, and just really adding that emotion into like the lettering and the forms and all that.
So with kind of drawing these letters, do you have a library that you're looking at? Do you have these books? I know, Jason Karn has these super old books that have these beautiful, that he's looking at these letters, or are you looking at, you know, the nature, like Tyler Thorney, or what are you doing? What inspires you?
A lot of things, nature especially, but not so much out here because it is completely city life almost, and it's totally outside of my norm from back in Michigan, and so that's been an adjustment. But a lot of it is just through like the internet, just digging through like old, like all the vintage lettering and all those forms, and seeing like what really worked for them and that style, and kind of applying that to whatever I'm creating in a sense.
So let's talk a little bit about your move from Michigan to California and
Yeah.
Southern California. So you didn't, I mean, you moved, which is a complete change. You didn't, now you don't have winter, right?
Nope. Sadly, no.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, I'm definitely a winter, like fall winter person. I'm not a huge fan of summer, but it's kind of growing on me out here since there's no humidity. A lot
Yeah,
different.
that's kind of nice.
Yes.
So let's get Ashley. Ashley wants to know what's the turnaround for a project from like assignment to final submission. What, and that's from all the lettering as well as putting it on the computer because you're doing any distressing work on the computer as well, correct?
Yeah. It kind of depends on like the complexion of the design, but like with Sevenly, we're turning out so much work. Like it's got to be like boom, 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 new projects like all the time. But anywhere, it's normally around like 3 days. It'll be a day of like digging up inspiration, sketching out, trying to figure out how you want to lay out the design, and then like another day of actually sketching out what you want your final piece to look like, and maybe inking it the same day or doing that the next day, depending on. Then once it's all inked up, you got to scan it in, and then probably another day on Photoshop of finalizing it and coloring it.
So sometimes deadlines kind of dictate this next question. This is from Chelsea, so I'm going to plop this up. Says, Sean, it sounds like you're a perfectionist. I struggle with knowing when to stop working on something and when to let go and be satisfied. Have you struggled with this? And I mean, on deadlines, if you have 3 days, that's it. You have to kind of just let it
Yeah.
go at some point, right?
Right. You have to just kind of do the best you can at that, like with your time frame, and just be okay with that, knowing that there may be something that you'll look back on and not like, because that happens almost all the time with me, I feel like. Just because you learn something down the road and then you look back on something like, I wish I could have changed that. But I
Right.
am kind of a perfectionist, but I don't know, like I erase a lot, so that kind of tells a little bit. It's okay to erase. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. People see like your final ink drawing and like assume you just did that without even sketching half the time. There's a lot of
That's what
erasing.
it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, at least you must not be using a really, what kind of, are you using an HB pencil? Are you using a B, like a heavy B? Are you using an H? Because there's
Oh,
bad things about the H's and then there's bad things about the super B's.
yeah. I think normally I sketch with like a HB lead. I use a like a lead holder. So it's just like a long stick of lead that you sharpen instead of like a full pencil. So I see a lot of people using that, and I really like it.
Do your hands get dirty?
Like this is the pencil I use. Yeah, a little bit.
Oh,
Oh, it's like it holds like the lead inside of
yeah,
the
yeah.
pencil. But
I was thinking you had just lead in your hand, but now I know. I have a pencil like that from school, and
yeah,
it's blue. Yours is red.
yeah, mine's. I don't know. My dad got it. He does tool and die design, so like, they had old like drafting stations, and like I got a bunch of old vintage like pencils and leads from him. So it's kind of cool to like work with those.
Yeah, totally. All right, so we had another question. This is a personal question, so if you don't want to answer it, you can just say, I'd rather not answer that. Amelia wants to know, is your fiance also creative and does she ever get annoyed with your lettering obsession? I just think it's a funny question.
Yes and yes. Yeah. She's definitely creative. She's more of like a crafty creative, which is awesome because I kind of have that too. So we kind of get along in that sense. And my obsession with lettering definitely has a factor, especially when I'm up till like 2 in the morning drawing stuff or constantly
Right.
on the computer or showing her everything I make. She's definitely my biggest support and fan. So I don't know. It's just a huge blessing.
That's that's good. Sometimes I ask my husband, I think he just says, it's fine, just to
Yeah,
stop me from asking.
I totally
But I
feel
guess that you made me laugh so much I was crying.
it.
All right, let's see. So moving from going back to this question about Michigan, and you move, so you, and actually with the Sevenly interview, and I think I know this from Nathan or Zach, you actually had to come and they gave you stuff and they wanted to see, because some interviews, they want to see how quickly you're able to produce something, right?
Right. Yeah, they gave me like a day to like come up with a sketch and figure out print design like that they wanted, and like I literally got there from like 4 days after getting the email. Like, it just happened so quick. I flew out to California, which is like my first time flying, my first time being that far west, like a lot of firsts. And then I
Right.
get there, meet the team, walk around, and then sit down and like, they're like, all right, here's the phrase. Let's see what you can do. It's just like so intimidating, and I just like froze for like a good hour. Like, I was so nervous, but it all worked out. So it turned out to be great.
But it is kind of stressful. I mean, Meredith said she would have a panic attack if somebody made her do that. And I
Mm-hmm.
can imagine because a lot's kind of riding on it,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, like I just was like, I felt like it was like my whole reputation on the line just for this thing or whatever. So it's just like I was blowing it out to be way more than it was, but I was just so nervous because it's like my first like big design like job interview and whatnot.
Yeah. And so like you go to the interview, you get the job and you move and then it's like you and Nathan and Zach are all there together. I think you and Zach maybe started at the same day or
Yeah,
something. You really
literally
close to.
got to California the same exact day. Like he flew in and I drove in later that night. We were all like,
That's cool.
yeah, we were staying with Nathan and his two roommates for like the first month because we had to move out so quick. We didn't have a place to live, so it was cool like living with them.
And then you guys are living together now, right?
Yeah, me and Zach have a place right now, and he's actually next week is his last week, and he's moving to Georgia, so splitting that
I
up.
think we're gonna. You're roommateless for a little bit.
Um, Actually, tomorrow, my fiance is moving out, and then we already have a place lined up together. So
That's good.
excited for this.
Yay! I'm
Yeah.
excited for you. Huge changes. That's awesome. So Christina wants to know. She says her neck is killing her with just using a flat surface. Do you use a drafting table? And if you are you using it at an angle, or what are
Um,
you kind of using for?
I'm in the same boat actually. I really wish I had a drafting table. Nathan's got like such the perfect setup. Like I really want like a nice drafting table just so I can angle it and just save the back and neck pain. Right now I work at home on an IKEA desk and IKEA chair. So nothing fancy.
Oh, that's funny. That's
Yeah.
great. So, how do you think working with Nathan and Zach and living with Zach on a daily basis has made you a better person or working at Sevenly? And how has that made you a better designer and letterer?
Well, at first, like when me and Zach first got out there, I felt like there was this like hidden secret tension to like prove who was the better one. So we were just constantly like, and we shared a desk for like the first 3 or 4 months. So we're always like looking at each other's stuff, like, I got to do something better than that. And it's just like this secret competition that we had amongst ourselves. And then we'd turn around and look at Nathan, and he's just like creating this masterpiece, and it's just so inspiring just to be around everybody and just feed off everybody's like creative vibes. And then also like collaboration, like getting input from everybody, just all collectively. It's like a once in a lifetime experience to like be in this situation.
Yeah, and I think it's really neat because it seems like when I interviewed Nathan, he really is so inspired by you and Zach, and it's really you guys have really inspired each other. And instead of being, I mean, competitiveness is good to some extent, right? But it can be bad. It could be like, I hate him.
Totally.
He's always getting the whatevers, or he
Yeah.
made the chicken, whatever. But like, I
Yeah.
think that it can be really fun if you're using it to push yourself forward. Because I think Nathan even said that you had really, the way you were doing something pushed him to try to do something else. And the way Zach did something pushed him. So I think that's really cool. And it's the attitude. How much do you think your attitude plays into how you work?
It's a huge thing, like actually being able to take like criticism sometimes, or like taking somebody else's like input and putting down your ego and applying it and just seeing what could happen. Like just be willing to make changes. Like sometimes Nathan, I remember he's like suggested something and it like referred to me redrawing my whole design. And we're like, you just gotta trust each other, and we all know what we're doing. We all have good ideas, I think. So just being able.
I think I had somebody suggest something to me, and I was like, at first, like, ugh, I'm gonna have to. Oh my gosh, it's gonna take me so much more time. And then today, I was looking at, it, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a suggestion, and it
Yeah,
did. It made it better. And so it sometimes you just have to walk away a little bit and think, you know what? I'm not. But it's about time because if it takes the whole day, you're gonna have to redraw because it takes a lot of time, but
yeah,
it would make it so much better and that design would be better and then more people would be saved or more people would have water or kids with
exactly.
autism or whatever. It's making a difference.
It's what's crazy about it, and that's why I really love Suddenly is that I'm not just drawing to make art or just make stuff to make money at all. It's like all to help people, and it's all going towards like good causes and really making a difference.
Yeah. I think that's something that's really specific. I read a lot of books and I was reading a book about millennials, which I think pretty sure you fit in that category, right?
I
Right?
think so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's I think it cuts off at like 1977 is Generation X, and then it's the millennials. So I think
and
you're in.
definitely yes. I'm only 21.
Yeah. So, but I think that that's one of those things that a lot of people that sometimes is more important than it's like who you're doing it for. What's the reason? What's the cause? And I think for you, that's definitely something that's really important, and one of the reasons that you like working for Semily because you're really making a difference in the world.
So like when you know like what you're making is like directly affecting like this certain like group of people, like it just makes you want to work harder and do better and just put out the best thing that you can for them. So like know that you're helping them out.
So let's talk a little bit about your sketching and your process. How much sketching and how do you decide what medium to use? Are you always using ink? Um, and I have a couple more images, so if you want me to pull them up to illustrate something, let me know.
Yeah, you can throw up whatever, but yeah, sketching it normally just starts with just the skeletal like letter forms, just with a pencil, one weight, just kind of mapping out how you want to lay out the design in a sense. And like I just go through tons of printer paper or copy paper or whatever, just plain paper, just real sloppy, real rough, like trying to fit everything where I want it. And then kind of envisioning the end product and adding like what style type, what like design elements do I want to add, and just slowly like refining it until it's the final piece. And then the final like inking, it kind of depends on what look you're going for. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
been kind of dabbling with painting lately, just because I really love the texture you can get.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been kind of exploring with that, but for the most part, I've just used dip pen or like Micron or Sharpie, just solid black, and then kind of adding color and texture in post in Photoshop.
So and we'll get I think I have an image of your painting. So let's just talk about this one. So this is something you do you're doing all your design on paper. You're and this is what I tell my students at least you're designing the computer is just a tool like inking. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a tool. Your design's done in your sketches,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like sometimes you can add like little bits and pieces in Photoshop, like kind of draw them in. But for the most part, I just really love having like all the inconsistencies of being hand drawn, like the lines, and there's never a perfectly straight line. There's never like a vectored smooth like edge on anything.
Right. So this piece looks absolutely perfect. I see there's an eraser. I don't believe
Yep.
you used it, but you want to talk about this piece a little bit?
Yeah, it's kind of inspired by like old like sports jerseys. I remember my dad had like a motocross jersey that kind of reminded me of this, just like the something, just kind of having that like retro feel to it and in motion, as in like go do something in a sense. And
Right.
then like the do, I wanted it to kind of look like jersey numbers, but
Mhm.
still read as do. So Yeah,
And then,
I think this one I
go ahead.
just kind of pulled out of my head and just went for it. Just kind of
So
for the moment thing.
then you scan it in
Mhm.
and you get something, and then you distressed it, I guess, right?
This one, I've been exploring with this. I didn't add any texture. It's just the actual, if you adjust the levels of the black and whites, you can pull out this look and just kind of overlay it over the colors. And it kind of has like that old painted, worn away kind of look towards it. But that's just from inking it.
So you can actually see the ink strokes then. So this is all you. This is your
Right.
strokes. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, you can, like, if you look at the lightning bolt, you can see kind of like where I shading thing, or just like scribbling it all in. So when you adjust the levels, you really like contrast the black and white, and you can really see all those little imperfections.
So is that something you learned on your own, or is that something that you learned since you've been at Sevenly?
Totally just stumbled upon this because I always like adjust the levels when I scan it in just to knock out the black and white so I can separate the two. But I think I moved one of the bars a little towards somewhere else. I'm like, oh, hey, look at that. And then there it is.
Happy accidents. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's awesome. I really, and now I see it. Like I see you never changed from like a tiny pen to like, I mean, used to I would go like from a smaller Sharpie to the big,
Yeah.
and inside I'd go, but you would totally lose some of that quality that you're getting because you can see all the little shading with the micron or the small Sharpie or whatever.
Yeah, I think I used like one of the thicker microns just to kind of keep edges a little bit rounded and not super sharp. But yeah,
That's
you
awesome.
can see like up close, like I outlined it all and then filled it in, so it kind of has like that one edge where it's consistent around the outside. Which I actually
That's
just did
awesome.
that in a newer piece that will be like released in a few weeks. It's kind of the same style.
Cool. So Christina is asking if you painted the colors, but I believe you did all the color work in the computer. Is that correct?
Right, yeah. Just did that in Photoshop.
So I'm going to bring up what I asked you before. I was like, oh my gosh, did you paint this on this wall? Like, man, you do a lot of great stuff. I mean, I think it's great. But then you said, no, you did it in Photoshop, which
No.
is nice that you can fool people. Me.
Yeah, because like the long time ago when I first started doing Photoshop, like 8 or 9 years ago, I always liked doing like photo manipulations and just kind of like messing with stuff. And then around Instagram, I was drawing type and then adding it over photos and like just doing hand drawn type instead of just throwing fonts over photos was something a little more unique and different. And that's kind of how I built my following as well. Like people really like seeing that. And so that's just kind of what this is. Just drawn type, textured on the computer, and then kind of masked out certain parts to kind of blend it in.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your leaves. And this is a piece you sent me, and it looks like it's off register on purpose. Did you paint this off register, or is it in the computer?
This is actually something I took inspiration from a first grade art project I did years ago. It was just relief sketching or whatever with like
Rubbing?
black crayon. Yeah, like a rubbing of just some leaves I found outside. Scanned it in and just kind of leveled it out a little bit to get that. And then I think I printed it out and then traced the leaves and then actually painted all the leaves like where they were and then like combined the two in Photoshop and colored it there. But I really want to try to like actually do one of these like all in one piece again because that's kind of like what the original project was in first grade.
You
But
should
yeah.
tell your teacher. You should contact her or him and tell them they inspired you now. That's pretty cool. So, what do you do when you get creative block? Do you do stuff like this, these leaves or something like this that's not necessarily for work, but you're doing it just to kind of get off of a... Go ahead.
Yeah, for like creative block, it kind of depends. Like if it's for work, I'll maybe do like some personal thing, like just write some kind of quote or whatever out. Or I'll just get up and just leave everything, like go for a bike ride, go skate, go walk around, listen to music, watch Netflix, which is kind of a bad habit. But yeah, just kind of like get away from it and clear your head. And one bad thing to do, like I found with creative block, is just like search out like inspiration like right away, like what can I do? Because odds are you're gonna end up finding one thing, looking at it, and just like not completely intentionally ripping it, but you'll just fall like real heavy to it because it's like in your mind it's a quick fix, like your creative block. So like really collectively like gathering inspiration, kind of easing your mind away from it, and then coming back to it maybe another day.
Yeah. Well, I know we're out of time almost, so I want to pull up the rest of your images, which I should have pulled this one up earlier when we were talking about the curves. But this is the printed pieces on top, right?
Yep, that's the actual poster.
So then did you get to help pick the color?
Yes, it was actually a fun project because me, Nathan, Zach, and then Brian, another graphic designer, suddenly we all like had different quotes from MLK, and we did like a series, and then we came up together with like a color scheme for all of them, and it was like black, white, and gold. So that's kind of cool.
So this one, now that I saw and we talked about that do something, is that one that you did that same kind of thing? You scanned it in? Because there is a texture in that.
That one's a little bit different. I kind of gave it like old like letterpress stamp texture in Photoshop.
I was trying to see if I could pull up a bigger one again so that we could see it. But so you just added a texture in Photoshop before. Okay. All right, let's see. So you also have these great drawings, but okay. So we'll pull up this drawing, which again is small, but I love these. And so this looks like you're just figuring things out. You're practicing shading everything, right?
Yeah, because I haven't done much illustration. I've never done any like art classes like in college or drawing or anything, which I really regret now. But just really just opening up and just trying to learn new things and just going for it.
You know, so I did take all the classes, and I have my master's in graphic design. So believe me, you can lose these things. So you know who has helped me? Justin Hillgrove. If you ever look on YouTube, I interviewed him. He's an illustrator. He's a painter, but he does some great stuff with Copic markers, just simple lines with shading. So check him out. He might inspire you to. I mean, he does monsters and really fun, happy monsters. And I think it's cool. But I think it's nice to know that you're still learning. And I think that's one of the things I hope I never stop learning personally.
Yeah, it's just fun to always learn new things and keep pushing yourself to learn new things.
So Andre wants to know if your designs are screen printed. I think on T-shirts they are. Were they on the poster? I Have a Dream poster.
We've been trying to get them to screen print, but for like our audience, we just digitally print them. But once I like launch my site, which is coming soon, but I'm definitely gonna have some screen printed posters on there.
So, Amelia wants to know if we will see you in a 70 people film anytime soon.
I hope so. That film, our video guys are amazing. If you have a chance, definitely check it out. And it's so fun collaborating with them, like having them animate our type and whatnot. It just like opens up a whole new like world of just design.
That's cool. So this is going from this, which is this is talking when I'm talking about your flexibility, this is like total opposite ends to me. Maybe it's not to anybody else, but maybe it's just to me. So you have this, and then you also are doing things like this.
Yeah, that was a while ago. I was just broke up a bunch of twigs and was writing words, just trying something new, like see what kind of letters you can make with what you have.
I like it. I actually didn't know it was twigs until you said that now. It kind of looks like blood or something, like you were on a hunt and you just scraped it with your arm or something. but it's nice to know that you see beauty in all those things, even three-dimensional objects. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, and I think we have two more. So these are really cool. These first class fragile, do not crush, do not bend, airmail, and buy airmail. So were these done for work?
Yeah, this was like just a random freelance job I took on like a while ago. I just thought it'd be fun to like, they're going to be stamps, turned into stamps for her Etsy shop, I think, for packaging, so the postman doesn't crush, bend, or do whatever to like the merchandise. So it's just a fun little project, and like I wanted to put this in here because it's not like it's a huge company or anything, but one of the designers kind of like inspired me to like, you don't have to have cool rad brands to make cool rad work. Just take whatever you have and just make it cool. Like, you don't have to be working for Nike or anything like that to make cool stuff.
Well, I think it also kind of goes with your just who you are. You're helping this other company really grow as a company. And sometimes it's really nice to be on that end, and really be part of, even if it's just something small. I think that's I love the bend. I think that's, again, you're thinking, and I love the first class. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, that's one thing. Learning brush pens has been a crazy game.
Yeah, I see some stuff and I'm like, boy, these people make it look so easy. But I better get out my sheets. I've
killed so many trees trying to just practice one word. It's horrible.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, so then this is our last image that you sent. And you've definitely taken this into Photoshop and you've done some texturizing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you draw the what you?
Yes. It was drawn at a lot larger scale, so when it's kind of squished, it looks a little cleaner, but yeah.
Yeah, it looks perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that has to be a font. Anyway, so was this for Sevenly or was this for a freelance or?
It was just for a fun spur of the moment thing. My Pinterest got hacked and I had to like delete it because somebody decided they wanted to use it for spam and I couldn't like get it back or whatever. So I made a new Pinterest and like invited everybody kind of through Instagram, and this is kind of like my little post saying like, what inspires you? This is what inspires me. Maybe can help you. So
that's good. So you're also really reaching out to other people, getting inspiration from what they're getting inspired from, and that just because you have this great job and you're affecting all these people, your head's not too big, that you still can be inspired from lots of other people.
Yeah, you can still be inspired by somebody who just drew their first piece. Like, it doesn't have to be like the big names that are inspiring you or all that fancy jazz and whatnot. But yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so I want to make sure we don't have any more questions, and I think we don't, and I know we're a little over, so I know you're on your lunch break, so I'm going to share your link. So if you guys are not already following Sean, I want you guys to do that. And so here it is on Instagram, and I'm going to post it up as well into the chat. It's just instagram.com/ and then his name, which I will say again correctly, hopefully. Sean Tulgetske, because I've been practicing for a week. There we go. I know that seems so dorky, but it really threw me for some reason. All right, and so then this is his Pinterest. So, Pinterest is awesome. It's such a great place to find.
Onto it like not too long ago. I thought it was just for girls and their recipes and clothes, and then I just found out like there's so much good on it.
Are you following Keith Tatum?
Yes.
A type. Okay. Yeah.
Gold mine for type.
Yeah, and he does share on Pinterest as well as on Instagram, so it's really nice. He's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna if you guys want to always never, if I interview Sean or anybody else, you never want to miss it, just sign up for And I don't even know if I wrote it down. Anyway, it's designrecharge.org. You can, it's good when I don't put my own thing up there. Oh, here it is. Finally. And then you can also, it's just at Subscribe Land. It's on every page really, but you can go specifically there and you can always get it. You can sign up for my list. You'll get the questions, and I don't send that out to just anybody. I don't share that. I mean, I don't care if you share it, but I give all the questions, and then you get a chance to ask questions yourselves. And I actually try to get all those questions answered every week. And then if you want to follow me on Facebook or Instagram, it's just Design Recharge. And then on Twitter, and I don't know, I know Sean's on Twitter, and
Yeah,
he can,
put that in there.
you can tell me, or we can type it in, or whatever. And then I can put it on the big thing. Yay!
But
Awesome.
should
Now
be-
it's here. So cool. That's awesome. So Sean, thank you so much. I was really excited to have you. I hope we've inspired you guys. If you have any more questions, send them my way. I'll have to have you back on. Sometime I'll have to do a group with you guys, all 7 people together.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Anyway, well, Sean, thank you so much. And next week I have Claudine Helmuth, who is an illustrator. She does a lot of work with collage. She's been more in the craft industry. Sean, your fiance might know her. But she hasn't really done she's done illustrations for Washington Post. So check back next week, same time, 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific. You'll have to do the math if you're in the middle, but it's just a +1 or a -1. So thank you guys. Thank you, Sean. You were awesome. And I'll see y'all next week.